Let me ask you a brutally honest question, a question that perhaps keeps you awake in the quiet hours of the night, replaying conversations and searching for a clue you missed. Why do so many promising connections with younger women who are initially, palpably drawn to you, inexplicably fade into a phantom-like silence? You've cultivated the life experience, the hard-won wisdom, and the unshakable stability that men your age are supposed to embody. Yet, you're left staring at a phone that no longer buzzes, wondering what catastrophic misstep you took between that first electric smile and the eventual, deafening silence. The world, in its infinite appetite for simplistic platitudes, will offer you 1,000 easy and ultimately wrong answers. It's just a numbers game, your friends will say, clapping you on the back. Maybe she just wasn't ready for something serious, a well-meaning colleague might offer. The internet will scream at you to buy a new car, get a better haircut, or memorize a dozen clever pickup lines. These are all bandages on a gaping wound. They address the symptoms, never the disease. The difficult, uncomfortable, and liberating truth is this: most mature men are not failing because of the number of years they've lived. They are failing because of deep-seated psychological mistakes, insidious patterns of thought and behavior they don't even know they're enacting. These are not simple faux pas, they are fundamental errors in the architecture of their self-perception, projecting an internal reality of insecurity that no amount of external success can conceal. In the next few minutes, I'm going to expose the four most brutal of these mistakes. This isn't about learning a new tactic, it's about undergoing a fundamental paradigm shift. I invite you to read this not just with your eyes, but with a courageous willingness to examine your own history. Correct these deep-seated errors, and I promise you, the very thing you perceive as your greatest liability, your age, will be forged into the unassailable core of your greatest advantage. The first brutal mistake, the pedestal of youth. The first and most destructive mistake happens in the nanosecond after you meet her. It is an instantaneous, subconscious, and catastrophic error in positioning. It's a psychological trap called the pedestal of youth. It's that internal voice, a frantic and insecure whisper that screams, "She's so young, so vibrant, so beautiful, don't mess this up." In that single, fleeting moment, a fatal shift occurs. You cease to be a man meeting a woman, an equal exploring a potential connection. You become a supplicant. You become an applicant, auditioning for a role in her life. You unconsciously place her youth, her beauty, her vitality on a gilded pedestal, and in doing so, you trade your lifetime of authority, experience, and masculine presence for the fleeting hope of her momentary approval. The entire dynamic becomes inverted. The man who has navigated boardrooms, weathered economic storms, and built a life from scratch is suddenly, desperately, seeking the validation of someone who may still be figuring out her career path. This internal capitulation manifests in your behavior. You sterilize your personality. You filter your opinions, sand down your sharp edges, and mute the very essence of the man you've become. You're afraid a story from your past will make you sound old. You're terrified a controversial opinion will make you seem out of touch. So you become relentlessly agreeable, a mirror reflecting her own views back at her. You deploy excessive, generic compliments. You're just so full of life that land with a hollow thud of inauthenticity because they are born of worship, not genuine observation. In your attempt to be the unimpeachable nice guy, you become something far worse in the world of raw, primal attraction, the boring, predictable, and utterly neutered older man. A woman, especially a sharp, insightful younger woman, feels this shift in status immediately. She doesn't consciously analyze it, but she feels it in her bones. She feels your deference. She senses your desperate need for her approval, and this neediness is the absolute antithesis of attraction. Attraction requires strength, a solid center, a man who is the mountain, not the wind that blows around it. When you pedestalize her, you are communicating in the most powerful, nonverbal way possible. I believe your youth and beauty are more valuable than my entire life's worth of experience, wisdom, and character. It is a silent declaration of your own inferiority, and no genuine connection can be built upon such a fractured foundation. If that single idea just hit you like a ton of bricks, I encourage you to subscribe right now. We are just getting started. The second brutal mistake, the apology of age. Let's move to the second pattern, a devastating act of self-sabotage that often follows the first. The conversation is flowing, the connection feels real, the laughter is genuine. And then, with a curious smile, she asks the question that sends a jolt of pure panic through the nervous systems of so many otherwise confident men. So, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? In that instant, a man's entire sense of self-possession can crumble into dust. His mind doesn't hear a simple query for a piece of data. He hears a final judgment he is about to fail. The fears, fed by societal narratives and his own insecurities, rush in. She'll think I'm a creep. She'll compare me to her father. This is the moment the attraction dies. His body language betrays him before his words even can. He breaks eye contact. A nervous chuckle escapes his lips. He might shift his weight, a subtle, physical retreat. Then, he says the number as if it's an apology. I'm 58. He delivers the line with a slight upward inflection, as if it's a question seeking her forgiveness. He then waits, breath held, anxiously scanning her face for the flicker of disappointment, the subtle shift in her smile that he is absolutely certain is coming. And in that moment of hesitation, in that nonverbal broadcast of shame, the attraction flatlines. Let me be unequivocally clear, it is not the number that repels her. It is the palpable insecurity surrounding the number. Your age is a fact. It is a testament to the decades you have navigated, the storms you have weathered, the challenges you have overcome, and the wisdom you have earned. It is the story of you. When you present that fact with shame, you are telling her that your story is something to be ashamed of. You are non-verbally communicating that you believe your greatest asset, your accumulated experience, is actually your most damning liability. Her subconscious mind immediately and correctly makes the connection. If he doesn't believe his age is a source of power and advantage, why on earth should she? A man's confidence makes his age an asset, his shame makes it a debilitating weakness. The sovereign man, the man who has integrated this truth, understands this completely. He knows his age is a pillar of his value, not a crack in his foundation. So when she asks the question, he responds with a sense of playful, grounded confidence that completely reframes the situation. If he's feeling bold, he might lean in with a slight smirk and say, honestly? I'm probably too old for you. We should probably stop talking now before you get any ideas. This response is a high-status move. It uses humor, a touch of playful arrogance, and a technique called disqualification to demonstrate that he is completely at ease with the age gap. It flips the script and positions him as the selector, not the one being selected. But even if that isn't his style, the principle remains the same: own the number with calm, unapologetic confidence. I'm 58. He says it, he smiles, and then, this is the critical part, he immediately moves the conversation forward without waiting for her verdict. Anyway, you were telling me about your trip to Italy. By not making it a big deal, he communicates that it isn't a big deal. He projects an unwavering energy that says, this is who I am. I am proud of the years that have shaped me into the man I am today. And that deep, authentic self-acceptance is infinitely more attractive than the nervous, approval-seeking energy of a man who secretly wishes he were younger. This confident ownership of his story leads us directly to the third mistake, a seductive trap that many successful and established men fall into when they feel their age and experience aren't quite enough. The third brutal mistake, the wallet's bait. This next mistake is a particularly seductive trap because, on the surface, it feels logical. It's an error that many successful, high-achieving men fall into, believing they are demonstrating immense value when, in reality, they are signaling a deep and profound insecurity. It is the impulse to lead with your wallet instead of with your character. This is the man who believes he can purchase her interest as if it were a commodity. His internal logic is simple: if I can show her a lifestyle she's not accustomed to, she will be impressed. If I buy her things, she will feel a sense of obligation or gratitude that will blossom into attraction. Within the first few minutes of meeting her, he finds a way to showcase his luxury car, casually mention the brand of his expensive watch, or steer the conversation towards his financial successes, his real estate portfolio, or the power he wields in his industry. He insists on only the most expensive restaurants, not as a genuine expression of a shared experience, but as a performance of his status. While this approach may certainly attract a certain type of person, one who is interested in a transaction, it will always repel a woman of genuine substance and high character. A truly high-value woman is not looking for a benefactor, she is looking for a partner. She is seeking a man whose presence is compelling, not one whose presents are expensive. The moment she senses that a man is using his wealth as a substitute for his personality, her respect for him plummets. His grand gestures are not perceived as generosity, but as a glaring admission of his own perceived inadequacy. It sends a powerful subconscious message that is impossible to ignore. I don't believe that I, as a man, my mind, my humor, my character, my presence, am enough to keep your attention. Therefore, I am hoping my money will do the heavy lifting for me. This utterly destroys the very foundation of genuine attraction, which is built on the desire to connect with a person, not their possessions. It creates a dynamic where she feels like an accessory to his lifestyle, rather than a partner in his life. This touches on a core concept we explore on this channel, the critical difference between displaying value and demonstrating value. Displaying value is the act of showing off external markers, the watch, the car, the bank balance. It is a performance, an advertisement. It is insecure. A man who displays his value says, "My company did $10 million in revenue last year." Demonstrating value, on the other hand, is the natural, unforced expression of a rich inner world. It is the byproduct of a life well lived. A man demonstrates his value not by talking about the price of his trip to Italy, but by telling a fascinating story about a conversation he had with a local fisherman there that changed his perspective on life. He demonstrates his value not by stating the revenue of his business, but by speaking with genuine passion about the problems he solved and the things he built, revealing his resilience and leadership through narrative. A man of true substance doesn't need to present a resume, his life is the resume. His value is demonstrated in the way he treats the waitress, in his unwavering eye contact, in his engaging curiosity about her world, in his sense of humor, and in his calm, grounded presence. Displaying value asks her to admire his world from the outside. Demonstrating value invites her into his world to experience it with him. The sovereign man is proud of his success, but he doesn't use it as a crutch. He allows his success to be discovered naturally, as an interesting facet of who he is, not as the opening act of a desperate performance. When a woman is drawn to his character, his mind, and his energy, then any resources he chooses to share become a joyful expression of an already established connection, not a desperate bid to create one. But what if you're not leading with your wallet? What if you're leading with help, with advice, with support? This brings us to the final, and perhaps most insidious, mistake of them all. The fourth brutal mistake, hiding desire behind the mentor. This final mistake is the most insidious because it masquerades as a virtue. It feels noble, helpful, and, most importantly, safe. Yet it is one of the fastest and most certain paths to the desolate, non-sexual landscape of the friend zone. A mature man meets a younger woman and, recognizing his own vast wealth of life experience, he instinctively and almost reflexively slides into the role of the mentor, the advisor, the protector. He listens intently to her problems, with her career, her landlord, her friends, and he offers impeccable, actionable advice. He helps her edit her resume, offers to connect her with people in his network, and becomes her go-to person for emotional support and crisis management. He gives, and gives, and gives, operating under the deeply flawed assumption that by demonstrating his immense value as a provider of solutions, she will eventually have a dramatic epiphany and realize he is the perfect man for her. But that epiphany never comes. Instead, she places him in a neatly labeled, hermetically sealed, non-sexual box in her mind, the wise older friend, the father figure, the reliable mentor. And once a man is in that box, it is almost impossible to escape. Why? The reason is rooted in the fundamental physics of attraction. Desire is not born from safety and mentorship alone. Desire requires polarity. It requires tension. It requires a spark of romantic or sexual energy that distinguishes a potential partner from a helpful relative. By hiding his true romantic intentions behind a mask of pure, platonic helpfulness, he has actively trained her to see him as a completely non-sexual being. He has never given her a single reason to activate the romantic, what if, part of her brain when she thinks of him. He has chosen a role that is, by its very nature, devoid of sexual polarity. Then, one day, after months of being the good guy, he can't take it anymore. He makes his move. He confesses his feelings in a long, heartfelt text or leans in for a kiss after a particularly meaningful conversation. And she recoils, not out of malice, but out of genuine confusion and discomfort. The classic, soul-crushing line emerges, "Oh, I never saw you that way." And she is being 100% honest. He never gave her the opportunity, the evidence, or the emotional space to see him that way. He built the very box she put him in. This is a painful but necessary lesson. As we've discussed in other videos on this channel, attraction is a conversation that happens beneath the words. If your actions are consistently saying mentor, you cannot expect her to suddenly hear lover. Being kind and supportive are essential qualities of a good man and a great partner. But if your intention is romantic, that intention must be signaled early and consistently through flirtatious teasing, through masculine presence, through leading the interaction, and through the creation of emotional tension. You must not mentor her into liking you, you must magnetize her with the unapologetic, authentic presence of a man who knows what he wants and is not afraid to let that desire be known. The evolution of the mistakes, why these traps get stronger with time. Here's the twist that every man must understand: these 4 mistakes are not static. They are adaptive psychological traps that evolve and become even more dangerous as you get older. A man in his 40s puts a woman on the pedestal because he feels he's competing with men in their 30s. A man in his 60s does it because he has deeply internalized the societal narrative that his sexual and social value has peaked, making him feel almost pathetically grateful for any attention from a younger woman. A 45-year-old apologizes for his age because he's newly single after a long marriage and feels insecure about his place in the modern dating world. A 65-year-old makes the apology of age because he's convinced it's an automatic disqualifier, a fatal flaw he must excuse right from the start. The wallet's bait becomes more tempting as a man's career peaks. In his 50s and 60s, when he is at the height of his financial power, it becomes the easiest, laziest tool to reach for, especially if he feels other aspects of his value are diminishing. The mentor trap is particularly insidious as the age gap widens. In your 40s, you might mentor her on her career. In your 60s, you risk becoming a father figure not just to her, but to her entire generation, making the creation of romantic polarity almost impossible. Understanding how these traps adapt and intensify is crucial to avoiding them for the long term. From knowledge to power, the transformation of reality. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, I see the mistakes. But why does fixing them matter so much? It matters because correcting these internal errors will fundamentally change not just your dating life, but the way you connect with the world and, more importantly, with yourself. First, it creates unshakable emotional clarity. When you stop operating from a place of insecurity, you stop making decisions based on fear of rejection, fear of loneliness, fear of being too old. You begin to radiate an authentic, grounded confidence, which is the single most attractive quality a man can possess. Second, it generates genuine polarity. You stop being the agreeable nice guy who finishes last. By owning your value, your age, and your intentions, you become a man with a strong center, a man whose presence is magnetic and intriguing, not just comforting and safe. This is the core of masculine energy that women are intrinsically drawn to. Third, it dramatically reduces misunderstandings and the pain of rejection. When you understand these patterns, you stop taking everything personally. You see that a connection fading often has nothing to do with you being too old and everything to do with a broken dynamic that you now have the power to control and correct. You move from being a victim of circumstance to the architect of your interactions. And fourth, it makes your age your superpower. When you no longer apologize for your age, lead with your wallet, or hide behind a mentor role, your life experience, your stories, your resilience, your perspective, your calm, becomes the asset it was always meant to be. Women are naturally drawn to the stability and wisdom of a mature man, but only if that man fully inhabits his own power and worth. This all culminates in a shift from an external locus of control, I hope she likes me, to an internal one, I am a high-value man, and I am here to see if she is a good fit for my life. This is the essence of the sovereign frame. You lead the interaction not through dominance, but through quiet, unshakable self-possession. Conclusion: your inevitable choice. So, let's bring this home. You now know the 4 brutal mistakes: the pedestal of youth, the apology of age, the wallet's bait, and the mentor trap. You understand that they are not isolated tactical errors but symptoms of a single root cause, a failure to fully and unapologetically own your own value as a man. Think about your own life, your own interactions. Have you ever placed a woman on a pedestal? Have you ever felt that jolt of panic when asked your age? Have you ever leaned on your success as a crutch or retreated into the safe zone of mentorship? You're not alone. Most men struggle with this because society never teaches us these deeper psychological truths. We are taught to achieve, to provide, to be nice, but we are rarely taught how to stand tall in our own masculine essence without apology. But now, you have the map. You have the knowledge. And knowledge, when applied, becomes power. So I have a question for you. Of these 4 mistakes, which one resonates the most? Which one has been your biggest blind spot? Be honest in the comments below. Tell us a story about a time you fell into one of these traps and what the outcome was. Your story can be the catalyst for another man in this community to have a profound breakthrough. And if you found value here, do 3 things for us. Hit that subscribe button to continue your journey of self-mastery, give this video a like to let us know it connected with you, and share it with one other man who needs to hear this message. The past is a lesson, not a life sentence. The man you will be tomorrow is forged in the choices you make today. Let's begin.